I found out my husband had a secret second life. For 3 years, he cheated on me and used our money to financially support another woman and raise her children. I've been sitting with this information for almost 2 weeks now, and I still don't know how to proceed. My 49M husband has a second family on the side. Just writing those words makes me feel like I'm talking about someone else's life, like I'm describing some tragic movie plot rather than my own reality. But this is real. This is my life. And I, a 43F woman who has dedicated more than 2 decades to this marriage, have no idea how to move forward. I've been married to this man for 21 years. We've built a life together, raised 2 daughters, and weathered storms that should have broken us but only made us stronger. Or at least, that's what I thought. We lost our eldest son 10 years ago, and it was the most painful thing either of us had ever endured. But we leaned on each other, grieved together, and somehow came out of it with an even deeper bond. Or again, that's what I thought. Turns out, while I was living in our marriage, believing we were solid, he was out there creating a whole other world, a whole other family. I found out completely by accident. A week ago, I was scrolling through TikTok, trying to unwind after a long day. I love watching cooking videos, they're mindless and soothing, a little escape from reality. And then, one particular video caught my eye. A woman was cheerfully plating up a dish she had just made, saying something about how she loves to cook for her man when he comes back from his work trips. I was barely paying attention at first, but then I saw him. Not his face, but his back, his posture, the curve of his neck, the way he moved. It sent a jolt through me. At first, I told myself I was being ridiculous. It couldn't be him. But something in my gut told me to keep watching. So I did. I scrolled through her page, watching more of her videos, my heart pounding harder with each one. And then I saw his hands. His distinct, grubby hands holding a fork in that weird, caveman-like way he does, like a Neanderthal discovering utensils for the first time. That's when I knew. That's when the world started spinning. It was him. My husband. And this wasn't just some casual affair. He's been with this woman for 3 years. 3 years. Long enough to have routines. Long enough to bond with her 3 sons. Long enough that they're now planning to have a baby together. How did he do it? How did he find the time? How did he manage to live 2 separate lives without slipping up? I started paying closer attention, piecing together the timeline. Every time he went on a work trip, she'd post about cooking a special meal for her man coming home. Every single time. He had it all down to a perfect, deceptive rhythm. And yet, when he was with me, nothing felt off. If anything, he was the perfect husband. He always tells me he loves me. When he comes back from his work trips, he brings me little gifts, souvenirs that I now realize were nothing more than guilt offerings. We still have an incredibly active sex life. We make love 4 to 6 times a week. We laugh together. We talk about everything, or at least I thought we did. I never once suspected that when he left our home, he was walking into someone else's, acting as though he belonged there just as much as he did here. And the most sickening part? Our 22nd anniversary is coming up, and it's his turn to plan it. We take turns each year. Last year was my turn, and I put so much effort into making it special for him. He's been planning something extravagant this year, dropping hints about a big surprise. What was he going to do? Take me out to a fancy dinner, tell me how much he loves me, and then go back to her the next week and do the same thing? Was he going to celebrate 2 anniversaries with 2 different women? I feel like I'm losing my mind. I can barely focus. I nearly burned the kitchen down yesterday because I completely spaced out while cooking. I feel like I'm floating outside of my own body, watching this all happen to someone else. I don't know what to do. I don't even know where to begin. Should I confront him? Should I gather more evidence? Should I pretend like I don't know and quietly consult a lawyer? I never thought I would be in this situation. I never thought that at 43 years old, after 21 years of marriage, I would be sitting here, questioning everything I ever knew about my husband. I love reading stories on here and giving advice to others, but now that it's my own life falling apart, I feel completely paralyzed. I don't know how to move forward. I don't know how to breathe through the sheer rage, heartbreak, and humiliation I feel. What do I do? Update 1. Firstly, thank you all for your kindness and for all the great advice you've given me. I am truly grateful. The past couple of weeks have been a whirlwind of emotions. Some days, I felt like I was drowning in betrayal and anger. Other days, I felt oddly numb, like my body had shut down to protect me from the weight of everything. But despite the emotional roller coaster, I knew one thing for sure. I was not going to let this man continue to make a fool out of me. I took your advice. I found a great divorce lawyer, one of the best, actually. And I was advised to keep quiet about what I knew. That was one of the hardest things to do. Every time he came home, kissed me, smiled at me, acted as though we were still the perfect couple, I wanted to scream in his face. I wanted to ask him how he could look me in the eye and pretend like he wasn't betraying me every chance he got. But I played my part. I pretended everything was normal while I quietly built my case. A few days ago, my lawyer finally gave me the go-ahead. It was time. At first, he denied everything. I expected that. He tried to act confused, feigning innocence like he had no idea what I was talking about. But I was prepared. I had screenshots of his mistress's TikTok posts. I had timestamps that aligned with his work trips. And thanks to the private investigator I hired, I had pictures of him walking into her house, holding her hand, playing daddy to her kids. I had it all. Even then, he still denied it. Then he turned it on me, accusing me of being insane, paranoid, and making up ridiculous accusations. But I did not back down. I was relentless. Every time he tried to gaslight me, I threw another piece of evidence in his face. This went on for hours, an exhausting, emotionally draining fight that lasted from evening until the next morning. And then, finally, he broke. He admitted it. Every bit of it. But of course, he couldn't just be honest. He tried to twist the story, minimize the damage, find excuses. He lied within his confession, claiming it wasn't serious, claiming it didn't mean anything, despite the fact that they had been together for 3 years and were planning a baby. But I wasn't having it. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of breakfast. I walked into the kitchen, and there he was, standing over the stove like some devoted, doting husband. He looked at me with pleading eyes and begged me not to hate him. He asked me to find it in my heart to forgive him. He told me we could fix this and that I just needed to give him another chance. I told him I couldn't. I told him I wouldn't. And I told him I wanted a divorce. And just like that, the mask slipped again. The moment he realized I wasn't falling for his act, the tears dried up, and he turned vicious. He called me heartless, unforgiving, and a bitch. He ranted about how I was throwing away our marriage over something that wasn't a big deal. I told him to leave. I told him to pack his things and go stay at his parents' house. And to my absolute delight, he actually listened. But I wasn't done yet. While he was busy licking his wounds at his parents' house, I went to see his mistress. I wasn't going to let this woman sit comfortably in the home my husband paid for, thinking she had somehow won. I wasn't alone. My sister came with me, waiting in the car just in case things got out of hand. She let me in without hesitation. And she wasn't even surprised to see me. That alone confirmed what I had suspected she knew. She knew all along that he was married. And the way she smirked, the way she gloated, told me that she enjoyed it. She sat there, acting like she had won some great prize, telling me how in love he was with her, how good he was to her kids, how he had bought her a house, a car, and had been taking care of her financially. And then she looked me dead in the eye and said, "If you weren't such a lazy bitch and a gold digger, he wouldn't have been so easily taken." That was her argument. That I was lazy, despite the fact that I was the primary parent and homemaker. That I was a gold digger, despite the fact that I earn more than him and we own a business together. I almost laughed in her face. But before I could respond, he showed up. He had been calling me nonstop, and I had texted him, "I'm at your mistress's house." That must have sent him into a panic because he stormed in, furious. And what does he do? He starts arguing with her. Not with me. With her. He tells her not to speak to me like that. He tells her that she's ruining his chances of fixing his marriage. And in no uncertain terms, he tells her that he wants to be with me. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. But then, I remembered every smug word she said. Every insult. Every dollar he spent on her that should have gone to our daughters. And instead of feeling bad, I just laughed. I thanked her for being so forthcoming. I thanked her for confirming that he had spent a fortune on her. Because guess what? As his wife, I own half of everything. Half of his business. Half of his assets. Half of everything he's ever given her. And now, I'm taking it all back. Neither of them deserve an ounce of my sympathy. And by the time I'm done with him, he'll have nothing left to offer her. Let's see how much she still loves him when he's broke. Update 2. It's been 3 months since my world shattered. And let me tell you, I have never felt better. I won't lie. The first few weeks after everything went down were brutal. Even though I was furious, even though I knew I was doing the right thing, there were nights when I just sat alone, trying to process how the man I spent 21 years with could betray me so completely. There were moments of doubt, of sadness, of overwhelming exhaustion. But here's the thing. Every day, it got a little easier. Every day, I felt a little stronger. And now, I can confidently say, I am thriving. The divorce? It's going beautifully, for me, that is. Legally, things are in my favor. Remember how I co-own half of his business? Yeah, well, my lawyer made sure that reality hit him like a ton of bricks. The moment he realized that I wasn't just taking my half, I was taking everything I was entitled to, he lost it. He tried to argue that I didn't deserve any of it, that I was being vindictive. But too bad for him. The law doesn't care about his feelings. And as for all the money he poured into his mistress, guess what? I got that back too. Since he used our marital assets to finance her little fantasy life, my lawyer ensured that I'd be compensated. The house, gone. The car, gone. The fancy gifts, gone. She lost everything he ever gave her. Speaking of the mistress, oh, this part is delicious. Turns out, she wasn't in love with him after all. She was in love with his wallet. Once I stripped him of everything he had showered her with, she started realizing that her man wasn't as appealing when he wasn't paying her bills. The best part? She left him. That's right. The woman he threw away our marriage for kicked him to the curb the moment the money dried up. I wish I could say I was surprised, but really, I saw it coming a mile away. Apparently, she even had the nerve to text me. Yes, me. Complaining about how he was broke and how she wasted 3 years of her life on him. Oh, honey, cry me a river. And my ex? Let's just say, he is not doing well. After she left him, he tried pathetically to crawl back to me. He sent long messages, left voicemails, and even had his mother call me to say that we should work things out. I laughed. Work what out? The fact that he had a whole second family? The fact that he spent 3 years lying to me? No thanks. The last I heard, he's been staying at a friend's house because he can't afford much else. His business is struggling without me. Turns out, I was the brains behind a lot of our success. Who knew? And he's been trying to date again. But let's just say women aren't exactly lining up for a cheating, broke 49-year-old man with baggage. And me? Oh, I'm flourishing. I kept the house. He wanted me to sell it, but my lawyer made sure I kept full ownership. My daughters still have their home, and we've been redecorating it to make it feel fresh and new without him. I took a long vacation. A real one, without the stress of a lying husband. Just me, my sister, and a few close friends, sipping cocktails on a beach, laughing until our stomachs hurt. I'm dating again. Nothing serious yet, but I'm enjoying being treated right. It's refreshing to meet men who actually appreciate me instead of taking me for granted. Most importantly, I'm happy. Genuinely, truly, deeply happy. I thought his betrayal would break me. Instead, it set me free. So if anyone reading this is going through a similar situation, just know, you will be okay. No, scratch that. You will be more than okay. You will come out of it stronger, smarter, and happier than you ever thought possible. And as for my ex, well, he got exactly what he deserved.